It's a privilege for me to stand before all of you and speak for consumers of financial planning. My ideas on public interest issues and the financial planning profession will follow a path that's as logical and commonsensical as the 6-step method of organizing household finances that any CFP certificant uses. At the macro level, the simplicity with which a consumer expected to negotiate the financial landscape has unfortunately been corrupted. The ongoing global financial crisis, the conflict of interest that is rampant across the industry worldwide, the small number of sharp incumbents who have drafted products, services, and laws that encourage stealth sales have all added their weight, power, and force behind this corruption. So we have products that regulators can't understand, commission structures that are opaque in many countries, and explanations that are written to deceive rather than to explain. I have much to say on consumer issues, from companies and regulators to macroprudential norms that affect all of us. But time is short, so in the space of 15 minutes that I have been allotted, I will attempt to build a 3-part argument that I presume and hope will empower consumers through FPSB. To use mnemonics, I'm phrasing them as the 3 C's of consumer centricity in FPSB 2025. These are costs, charges, and core. The cost of selling a financial product must be exterminated. Fee that a financial planner charges must be transparent. And the consumer interest must form the core of FPSB's strategic plan. Coming to the first part, costs. I found that the commission a planner gets by selling an insurance product ranges from nil in Hong Kong and 40% in India to 100% in Brazil and 120% in Australia. For mutual funds, the commissions range from nil in India to 100% in Brazil and Australia. Barring China and India, all said that planners have the option of not charging a commission and collecting fees or charges from consumers directly. These are costs that need to be exterminated. Note, I'm not saying reduce, but exterminated. In this respect, India has provided a lead by turning all mutual fund sales no load. That is, no commissions if you sell a mutual fund in India. And while the insurance regulator in India is dragging its feet, beginning 2012, all products in the UK, including insurance, will go no load. Like it or not, one country after another is going the no load way, one product at a time. To rephrase Peter Drucker, no loads is a future that has already happened. While on the subject and as your well-wisher, I would strongly recommend that if you are looking at long-term growth of your personal fortunes, you should get into an India ETF right away. It would be a no load. My second point is on charges. The advantage to consumers would be lost if FPSB as a standard-setting body does not insist on transparency of charges, not merely for CFP certificants, but as an industry standard. In a no-load regime, this would be immediate. But until the whole world goes no load, FPSB needs to insist that all CFP certificants declare the money they make from every transaction from every client. It will really help the consumers to turn to the professionals. Consumers will understand that advice is not for free. Professional advice would be more highly valued. Differentiation between advice and product would be clearer. Conflicts would be removed. When the product has become a commodity, consumers will be free to buy it off the shelf over the counter. But if they want to be sure that the product they're buying is one that suits their needs or solves their specific problems, they will understand that they need to pay for that advice. From my conversations with some of the best planners in India, I find clients are not only willing, but happy to pay for advice. But to be fair, to give the opposite opinion its due, I must list it out. To the same question about what will happen if all products go no load, I got these 2 responses as well. Nothing will change. I'm not sure that the mass affluent consumer base they target would actually pay upfront for advice. And the last is the most interesting, collapse of industry. My point, deliver value to clients and they will pay happily. Try and sneak around, and sooner rather than later, you will be caught. FPSB's 6-step method helps deliver that value. With the global governmental focus on financial literacy, The knowledge asymmetry between the planner and the consumer is going to vanish. And if a planner has strict consumers, he will not only lose them, but along with them his reputation. Consumers will share their one bad experience with 10. The reputation risk is just not worth it for the planner, I would assume. My third point is to bring the consumers to the core. As I said earlier, in the evolution of consumer finance, low costs and transparency in fees will come on their own course. They're on their way. The role of FPSB would be to catalyze the changes such that what would take 10 years to happen can be compressed into a year or two. Where FPSB needs to take proactive steps is in making consumers and their interest the organization's key driver. That is, to put consumer at FPSB's core. At an organization level, I believe we need to add the expression serve households into the strategic plan. These households or consumers need to be raised to the level of FPSB's primary stakeholders. My point is that FPSB today has attained a global presence and is heading towards attaining the momentum of critical mass. At such a point, consumers will expect more. And that's a good thing. It will challenge us to find newer ways to help them manage money, plug loopholes, and in the process, add our small bit to the rapidly changing global financial architecture. On behalf of consumers, therefore, I raise 3 demands. 1, increase the board strength of FPSB from 10 to 11 and let that expanded member's sole responsibility be to bring the consumer voice into the boardroom. 2, create an executive position in FPSB as well as in all affiliates that serves consumers directly. We can call it the Chief Consumer Officer, though I would leave its baptism to the board. And 3, bring in an outside, neutral, and independent ombudsman to take care of and look into consumer issues. Small starts have been made in this direction by the financial planning fraternity. I find, for instance, the public disciplinary process of the CFP board in the US, the complaints and enforcement at the Financial Planning Standards Council in Canada, and the complaints and discipline report at the Financial Planning Association of Australia, the much needed benchmarks for other affiliates to follow. To conclude, here's what I think FPSB needs to do to facilitate such that it evolves into an organization that's broader and deeper in 15 years and serves consumers better. I call them the 3 C's of consumer centricity in FPSB 2025. First, it needs to work with companies and regulators across the world to make all financial products no-load and thus exterminate costs. Second, it needs to bring in transparency in the way planners charge for services and advice. In countries without advisor regulation, India, for example, FPSB needs to work with its affiliates and push for a separate legislation. Third, it needs to bring the consumer at the core of its thinking and operations and make a start by appointing 1, a board member to look at consumer issues, 2, a CCO, and 3, an ombudsman. This needs to be done at FPSB as well as in all affiliates. I hope I have been disturbing and disruptive enough to get all of you to rethink the consumer interest in your respective countries. I believe consumers are the same the world over, only regulations and protection mechanisms differ. But I'm also sure that out of this destruction, which is creative, I hope, will emerge a new FPSB, an organization in tune with consumer needs, that commands consumers' respect and grows by serving consumers towards consumer delight. To me, it's the only way.